All right, thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Ivan Tibenkana, and to everyone that's on to business today. Well, it's a big day for you to delve into one of the biggest disputes you can talk about in Uganda currently. But basically, this covers the media, President Museveni's directive, and then the fear of implementation. What lies ahead if at all advertisement from government is cut off for the private media? And of course, when we talk about the private media, specifically, you can talk about radios, televisions, and then the newspapers, the guys that are into print. So it's quite some interesting conversation. We have the National Association of Broadcasters, which is more of the union. When you talk about the teachers, they have a union. Likewise, the nurses and then the medical personnel as well do. So joining us tonight is Joseph Beyanga. He's the head of Radio NMG Group, and most importantly, when it comes to this matter, he has a hand in the National Association of Broadcasters. Joseph, welcome to Business Today.
All right, the dispute just did not start yesterday. It actually started on 6th of March 2023 when the president wrote the prime minister directing about the funding of UBC. I don't remember the headline. But in their point number one was the directive to give 30 billion shillings to UBC this financial year, and that's 2023-2024. And then point number two, which became a matter of all contention, is directing that all government advertising should go through UBC. We don't know what that means. And then, lo and behold, as the financial year started, that directive has been implemented by a circular from the PSST, and that's Mr. Ramadan Gobi, directing all accounting officers to do that. Short of that, you are dismissed. So that comes with so many things. You ask yourself, one, is this directive within the laws that govern Uganda? Because we are talking about laws that promote a free economy, whereby it's supposed to be fair competition for all the players. You have private players competing against government parastatals. Now that's one question. The second question, you are taking at least one of the biggest advertisers out of the economy, already a small economy. With all respect to Ugandans, yes, Uganda is a small economy. We're still fighting to get to better income. So, and what's the future of the media? We're talking about a media that employs thousands of people, that if we weren't paying taxes, URA would have closed us a long time ago. So the impact on the economy, the impact on the issues of governance, the impact on actually the industry itself. So that's where the contention comes from, and then that's why we wrote and had a meeting with the Minister of ICT, Dr. President Museveni. We wrote and had a meeting with the Prime Minister, Right Honorable Reverend Banja, and we wrote to the President, and he finally replied and inviting us for a meeting on 10th of August. Hopefully we will resolve this, but in the meantime, before we get there, we are saying, even as we are not going to cover it.
Just from your submission about the very first question, there's something that has come up, UBC, and this is a government entity, obviously. Now, there's something I'm interested in knowing. As per this directive, let us assume it's been on grounds of revenue, government entities being on a downside. Is there anything that the private sector, private-owned media entities that have done that's better than the entities owned by government in terms of revenue collection? Creativity, innovation, among other elements?
I mean, if you're using, there are so many parameters you can use to measure how the different sectors are playing, the different entities are playing in this sector. Okay. One of them is you can use the audience ratings. What are the viewers and the listeners, what's their preference? Two, you can use the advertisers' preference. Where are the advertisers putting their money? Because if I'm a private player in the industry, I will put my money where I expect the best return.
Exactly.
So if they choose to put their money with the private media houses, it means the private media houses are giving them a good return. There's no brilliant investor who will throw his money in a bottomless pit. So in this case, I would say the private media, the way they manage their business, and yes, a few media houses, you know, if you talk about National Association of Broadcasters, a few media houses have had a few challenges in terms of being viable businesses. And one of the questions we've been discussing in the last 2-3 years, ever since the COVID hit us, is viability of media. You know, a few media houses are no longer that profitable. And even a small percentage breaks even. The majority are struggling to break even. And many people are still keeping media houses because of different reasons, and maybe because of the hope the economy will turn around and your fortunes will turn around. Most of the time it turns around, depending on how you're doing your projections. But without going into the details of UBC, and I'm not really privy to lots of their details, we've seen before in media, we've seen before, even some of them came around in court documents, others came around in parliament, being a public entity, some of those records come out. They've been, and even the president in his letter, point number 6, he talked about issues of mismanagement at UBC, though he says he will revisit those ones later. So I think you can talk about management. How are we running different businesses? Is that an issue? Is UBC facing one of those issues? I'm not saying they're being mismanaged, I'm just asking a question. Because even other media houses, they are having a challenge of profitability. And these are the questions we talk about. And some of them, when you go and visit and have a chat and have a conversation with people, somebody comes back 6-9 months down the road, says, I'm doing better. Your advice worked. So is there something that UBC can borrow from the private player? Yes, there's a lot. There's a lot we can learn from each other. There's a lot I've learned from you since we started having a conversation.
Okay.
Yes.
You've mentioned about profitability, and I'm looking at advertisement being one of the elements media relies on to generate revenue. From the many challenges that the private sector faces, private media entities, where does advertisement rank? A chop from government saying, okay, we're not giving you any more advertisement. If we take it away, where does it rank as a factor?
It's a big one. You're talking about 15 to 20% or thereabouts. And then somebody has been arguing that, you know, in the new budget, you know, advertising as a vote or communication has been shrunk out. But look, there's no government that functions without communicating.
Absolutely.
So it may be there as a vote in the budget, it may not be there, but government will always communicate. Because if you look at the way they run, you know, you talk about bidding. If they are going to follow the PPDA laws, they have to advertise.
Well,
If they are looking at hiring people, they have to advertise the jobs. If they are looking at disposing of assets, they have to advertise. So either way, the government will advertise. The government will always advertise. And for our sake in Uganda, the government still remains the biggest advertiser.
okay. Let's shift the conversation a little bit from the advertisement to the association. Now, it's more of a union. I'm interested in knowing, you're a member, you're a secretary actually, to put it into perspective. How has the media space, players, private sector players, adhere to the union?
It's an association, so we can't come into your house to tell you how to run your house.
Okay.
But we set out guidelines of which are accepted, they are shared, and we say we are going to do A, B, C, D. You can choose to join. You can choose to toe the line, or you can choose to go your way. We will not force you. So what we do is we set out to protect the common good. And as members, I'll tell you some of the issues we've pushed for in the media. You heard about the controversial 2%, you know, that 2% taxing 2% of your gross, not profit, gross revenue. And that was contentious. We waived it, and hopefully find it to be out of the act. there are so many issues that we've been pushing where the media players, individual media players, have benefited. So I don't want to go ahead and say, you know, we say we dictate your editorial policy. We don't. But we give you the principles of a good editorial policy that you should have in your media house. Because we are not talking about public broadcasters per se. We are not talking about any media. We are talking about media that aspires to be called free and independent media. We've had several trainings on media management. We've had several trainings on the technical side. So there are so many things that the association brings together for the benefit of individual media houses. How you choose to run your media house is your business. As long as you are law abiding, we really need to make sure our media houses are law abiding, which one, so to reduce the conflict between you and the regulator. Two, you give your staff contracts. It's important that people work with contracts, because the welfare of your people, if the welfare of your people is not taken care of. So we share the good principles. It boils down to the individual managers of the specific media houses to either implement or look on.
You just mentioned about contracts, and if you take if you decide to take an insightful survey among the players, journalists, and other stakeholders in the media space, you will find that, as it is with Uganda at large, many of them are working out of contracts. And the proprietors will tell you that one of the reasons rests with the annual revenue. How much are we making to bind you into occupation? So I'm interested in knowing, besides this conversation rotating around media, advertisement, among other things, how challenging is the media operation? We are talking about so many radio stations, so many televisions with many expenses, tax, miscellaneous, you have stuff that you have to pay, among other things. How challenging is it to start business in Uganda as a media?
You know, tax is a good challenge to have. If you have a huge tax burden, it means you're making money. If you're not making money, you have no tax burden. So I'd rather have a huge tax burden. It means I'm getting in enough revenue. Other than that, you know, the other things you'll be looking at is the license fees and all that. Those ones are constant. But tax comes, you know, like I won't pay you any commission except if you got in some business. Yeah. So, but, you know, that's why, without sidestepping your question, that's why we're saying already the media is struggling. Already we have these many challenges. Now coming ahead and say, even this other advertiser is going away. Are you working to promote free media, or you are working to kill the media as we know it? So running the media is challenging in the sense that, one, many players in a small economy. That's a question for the regulator. It's not my question, because I'm one of the players. And then two, you have a challenge of many media outfits run unprofessionally. The other challenges we are talking about in running the media house is on the side of many people who have come in to set up media houses, because now everybody, as long as you meet the requirements as set out by UCC, you get to have your license to run your media house. But you know, there are people who have come in, each one of them for different reasons. Somebody has come in, I want to promote my church. Another one, I want to promote my business. Another one, I want to promote my community. Another one, I'm a politician, I also just for my constituency, for mobilization. So those are different players in the industry, all of them with different objectives. And you know, every community, if you move around Uganda, 200 plus radio stations. Every corner, every village you go to, there are 2 or 3 radio stations. And TV stations of 100 plus. So you just look, at the end of the day, different people coming with different objectives. Very few are coming in to offer that public good, which is journalism, which is good, independent information that enable people to make independent decisions. So the many players being in the sector also is another challenge that we have when you're looking at the media spectrum. Then, not lastly, and neither least, is we also have unprofessional players. And you have, I'm not talking about Ivan here. you have practitioners, you know, somebody, and I'm not saying everybody should go to MassCom to just study journalism and all that. No, when you come, what makes you professional or unprofessional is adhering to the code of conduct and the ethics that guide a specific industry. Absolutely. Whether you're an engineer or you are a journalist or whatever. So the adherence to the principles and the ethics of the sector also matters. Yes. And then those are some of the challenges. I can go on and on.
That's something I understand.
Yeah, those are the top lines.
Now, there is one area that is cropping up across East Africa and world over. It's more of a demystification of what traditional media has always been. And then we are having online journalists, bloggers, people cropping up almost everywhere. To the traditional players, how much of an impact is this, the changes in the way journalism has always been translated?
No, I would say I'm a believer in innovation. For starters, innovation. Innovation is not necessarily new things, but new ways of doing the things we do. So what we have at the moment is innovation in the way we distribute our content. So back in the days before you and me were born, it was only print.
Exactly.
Came TV, came radio. From radio now we are online. Where online, we say everybody can be a journalist. But guess what? When you go to Twitter in Uganda, the leading individuals on Twitter are what we call the old school traditional media houses. You're talking about Daily Monitor, New Vision, the likes, yeah? So I wouldn't say it's a new challenge, it's just a new way of distributing content. And what it does, it may be a challenge maybe to the regulators, because now everybody is a media player.
Absolutely.
You find individuals with thousands of, hundreds of thousands of followers, which may even be bigger than a regulated media house. Now, you remember some time back UCC was talking about registering the online people, and especially those who solicit commercial advertising. So it's, I wouldn't call it, I love the innovation, I love the progress, I would never look at it as a challenge. It actually comes with many opportunities.
I'm interested in understanding one, in your own perspective, maybe as a media personnel or someone that benefits of the industry. Away from advertisement, is there something you would think of as an alternative for the media to pull extra revenue as far as operations are concerned?
No, I mean, different businesses have different business models, and one of the ways you need to look at, and this one they've taught it, I've had motivational speakers, business moguls and all that, and, you know, read it in different books, but the principle, whether you paraphrase it or get it right or wrong, it's always look at ways of adding value to your consumers. When you look at adding value to your consumers, consumers will always add value onto you. And as somebody said, if you are a media house, which problem are you solving? If you're solving a problem today of your audience, if you're solving a problem of your viewers, definitely your viewers will listen more to you. And when viewers listen more to you, then definitely you stay relevant to them, you stay relevant to your advertisers, you stay relevant to everybody, and the money will come in. We may call it advertising, we may call it partnerships, we may call it content distribution, we may call it commercial production, we may call it whatever you want to call it. But just think always of one thing. Which problem are you solving? You solve one problem, definitely the benefits are always.
Well, that's a key takeaway that I can't add voice to, adding value. to the society, perhaps to put it lightly. So for the media entities that are constructing business in the Ugandan economy, maybe that's key for sustainability. But we're talking about over 200 radio stations and 68 televisions. So to this effect, assuming the decree is implemented, would it be an implosion or a key takeaway for sustainability? Well, this is Business Today, and I'm Ivan Tibenkana. A good night to everyone that's been watching.